I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do, or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Yes, the brand is strong. We are still drinking coffee. So thank you so much for showing up. It's very important. Look, as I always say, and I'm not going to stop saying it, this is an important year for us. I know it's the presidential year, and I hope that Joe Jorgensen wins, and I'm going to vote for her. I hope you will too. And on top of that, we've got hundreds of libertarians running across the country who also matter, and we got to also make sure we keep them alive, keep them up and running. And to do that, we have to have our own media, which is this. So get out there, like, comment, and share. Let people know those algorithms matter. Click like, even if you don't like me, I don't care. I'm good looking. Like it anyway. So what? Still do it. Comment, say hi, whatever. Get those algorithms going and share with other people so people know this is happening. It does matter. I am super lucky today. I have someone on the show here from the great state of Kansas running for U.S. Senate, Jason Buckley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be on the show with you.
I am glad you made it. Now, I know that you have in the past run. I got to ask the question, ask everybody. It does matter. Why'd you choose to run this year instead of waiting until next year or something else? And then why'd you choose Senate?
I chose to run for Senate because with Pat Roberts deciding to leave the seat, and with the current division in our country, I think we are on the best projection to bringing libertarians into all levels of government. So my goal with this is to go into my campaign spreading pure libertarian message. Not water it down, not be a Republican light or a Democrat light. And I think people are waking up to the failures of those two old parties. And when they see that there's a legitimate third party choice, they will come to us.
But your incumbent stepping down, right?
He is, yes.
Does that mean it's going to be only a 2-person race, or does that mean a 3 or 4? Does that mean they're going to have a big primary? What does that mean?
Well, right now there's about 13 Republicans in the primary.
Did you say 13?
13. And the interesting thing about that is Kansas is traditionally a red state.
Yeah.
But the last governor race, a Democrat won.
Huh. Right. Okay.
I think it's going to go to hopefully libertarian eventually, but I don't think that's going to last. It just shows you how wrong things are for the Republican Party. Kansas wants something else.
This is funny you say this, because I had the same situation when I was talking to somebody from Kentucky.
Right.
They told me the same thing. They said, we got we're kind of a red state, but we got a blue governor. So I asked the question. I think it was Amanda Billings. I think it was her. And I said, why? Right? Is this that Kentucky is going more purple, or is it that they're just so unhappy with the Republican Party? And she said the same thing you just said, that they're really unhappy with the Republican Party. They're not really going bluer. They're just unhappy with the Republican Party. This sounds like a great spot for you, Jason.
Right, because Republicans, they talk a big game. They talk about being fiscally conservative and things like that, pro Second Amendment. And at the end of the day, they're not. They really aren't. There's 10 cents of difference between the Democrats and Republicans. So I think they're going to start looking outside of their party. And I think people from all political, from the whole political spectrum will see libertarians as the best choice for them.
Yeah, I like that, because it isn't just, you're saying it, other people are saying it. this might be a real trend that we're going to see at a local level. More people going, I'm really tired of the other two parties. Let me grab this other person who, I'm just going to sound crazy, who maybe I could trust.
I'm an open book. I will tell
go.
them exactly how I will vote, what I will sponsor, everything I will do. I will not tell them one thing and do another.
That's amazing. I love that. I absolutely love that. So you got 13 people running in your Republican primary. How about Democrats?
There's 2 left running for their primary, and there's also one independent.
Okay.
So when November comes, there'll be 4 of us to pick from. And I think I know who's going to win even in the Republicans. Kris Kobach was he's a big Trump guy. He was the guy that ran for governor that lost. So that's why I feel like we have a real good opportunity here. If Kansans won't pick him and he wants to run for Senate, I still don't think they'll pick him.
I got it. Interesting. Well, I got someone who's going to, the question I'm sure you hear all the time here, but if you're taking votes from Republicans, you help the Democrats, right? Don't we hear this all the time? I'm basically voting against the Democratic Disaster Party. We hear this all the time, don't we?
Yeah, I don't believe in a spoiler vote at all. Vote for who you want, not for who you want to beat. There is a large percentage of eligible voters, about 25% of the population, that don't vote.
Yes.
For any part, they're eligible to vote and they don't. Yes. So will I get some Republicans and some Democrats? Yes. Will I get them all? Probably not. I would like that though.
I would too. But yes, I'm with you.
So the idea that 3% of one party voting for me is taking away, giving 3% votes to another party is ridiculous, in my opinion.
What about the idea, right, that what I feel that some of those people who are voting Democrat in Kansas probably are actually Republicans, but they're voting Democrat because they think, I can't send this Republican, so it's almost a protest vote. So if you get those Democrat votes, aren't you actually not really, you're really getting Democrats and Republicans getting both, aren't you?
Right, absolutely. I agree 100%.
I like that. All right, so let me ask you, in your area, right? I don't know Kansas well. It's not a state I know very well. I've been there before, but I don't know it very well. So there's probably a lot of issues. Can you give me like your top 1, 2, or 3?
Well, the first thing I want to concentrate on a federal level, at least, is I really want to focus on the budget, the budget and the debt. I feel like if we do not fix the deficit and fix we're $26.3 trillion in debt.
Horrible.
If we don't fix those and bring those down, nothing else will matter. Everything will crash along with it. So that's my number 1 focus. I also want to focus on criminal justice reform. What we've seen in the news lately with the riots, those are all symptoms of a broken system.
Sure.
We got to fix those through removing qualified immunity. We got to end the drug war. We got to remove mandatory minimums. There's a whole ton of things the government can do, and things will become better.
So debt, criminal justice. You have another or no?
Well, I want to protect our rights. That's a given. But
I would hope so, right? I hope so. Sure.
And then in corporate welfare and bring the troops home.
Okay. So let's go down that list. Let's talk about debt. Debt is one of the hardest things to handle because, look, you know this. There's always a crisis, right? There's always a reason to spend more money. And someone's always going to tell you, and it's probably going to come out of you win this thing, there's going to be people in Kansas going, you don't understand, Jason, you got to give us federal funds for this crisis or for that crisis. How do we handle a debt when there's always a crisis?
Well, when there's always a crisis, you gotta work on the budget first. There's lots of money. I believe we can easily cut 40 to 60% of the military budget alone. That by itself will take a huge cut. And when you do that, we become a greener country because our military. So
you're actually saying that you're wrapping up, kind of bringing the troops home and the debt together.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's just one part. That's a big part of it. There's a lot of other things we can do to bring that down, but you got to get the budget down. cut spending. But to kind of answer your question, like when there's always a crisis, when something comes up, you just like any other household, you got to prioritize things. You got to save for those times when sometimes
America save.
yeah, sometimes you might have to cut spending in one area, and then so you can fund other things. The government's no different than any other household. And we need to start treating it like that.
I see. That's interesting metaphor. So you're saying treat your government like your household. Same style, same idea.
Yes.
Okay, so no more credit cards for us.
I don't have any right now, actually.
There we go. I get it. All right. So, it's funny. When I was running for governor, people often ask me, Larry, what do you need about to cut taxes? I said, I'm not really a huge tax cutter. And they're like, what? You're a libertarian. I said, I want to focus on reducing spending, right? If you just lower taxes only, one of two things happen. We go into more debt because we didn't cut spending, or someone else pays the tax, right? You moved it from this tax to that tax. You've got to, your point's right on the money, Jason. I love it. You got to be able to cut spending. Otherwise, lowering taxes is irrelevant. It just shifts the money someplace else, either onto someone else who's paying a different tax or into our future. So I love that idea, cutting the budget. All right. So let's move on then to criminal justice. And I'll add on to a piece, right? Because the big deal that just happened, obviously, is George Floyd, right? And everybody's talking about it. It's affecting the entire country. Did your criminal justice views or policy change or shift after after he was murdered? Or was it the same, or did it change?
Same. I think it just woke up more people's eyes to it. I think we need to make these changes sooner, because it's a problem and it needs to be resolved sooner or later. Because if we don't start making these changes, it's just going to continue, and more people are going to get killed by police doing victimless crimes. Sorry.
No, I get it. It's a big deal. I'm totally with you, and you should be emotional, and we all should be emotional. It's been affecting our country for literally decades.
Right.
So you talked about a couple of things, about qualified immunity and other stuff. Now, I'm sure, or at least you may not know, but I'm sure you've been paying attention. The Supreme Court decided to not see the entire idea, not even touch the idea of qualified immunity. That was my idea, to put it to the Supreme Court. And then Justin Amash put up a bill, right, to try to, and then now they don't want to vote on it. So we kind of got stonewalled. My idea of the Supreme Court pushed aside. Justin Amash put in a bill, pushed aside. Do you have an idea how we do? Do we just do it again? What do you think? Do you have an idea?
We keep doing what we can. I mean, qualified immunity, for example, is just one issue. If we just keep working at it, and as more liberty-minded individuals get into office, we'll be able to get the votes.
Got it.
If someone like Jo Jorgensen, for example, becomes president, there's a lot of things she could do on day one without Congress.
Sure.
Because the executive branch has been given these powers they're not supposed to have, and she can go in there right there on day one. So I hope she gets elected.
So you think that maybe the answer is to put pressure on the executive, hopefully Jo Jorgensen, but if you win and it's another executive, whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever it might be, you think your goal was to put pressure on the executive?
Put pressure there and just continue to work with every member of Congress.
Right.
Try to teach them, because I feel most members of Congress, they have the best interest in their heart. They think what they're doing, along with some outside interests, but for the most part, they think what they're doing is the best thing. You just got to keep talking.
Yes.
You can't go in your own little corner and say, I want this change, and then expect it. You got to work with the members of your team. And if I make it to Senate, there's 99 other senators that I'll have to work with. I can't do it by myself.
I love that. I love that idea. But the advantage is if we get 5 or 6 senators, now we're rocking and rolling. Now we're actually the swing vote. Right. We get
Absolutely.
5 or 6 and we're the swing vote. I love it. So qualified immunity, I know, is a big deal for you. What else when it comes to criminal justice besides qualified immunity?
One of the biggest things is ending the drug war.
Okay.
Ending the drug war, ending laws that go against victimless crimes in general.
Help me in how you end the drug war? Like, how do you do? All right, how do you do that? You've got literally decades of law enforcement. There's almost 1 million law enforcement officers in the United States, about 900 some odd thousand, something like that. They're all a lot of law enforcement. A bunch of them are somehow connected to the drug war, right? How do you the mindset of judges who've been drug warriors for 10, 20, 30 years? We've been watching cops on TV bust the drug dealers, right? I mean, it's a cultural issue, institutional issue, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, a lot of the current drug laws, especially in regarding marijuana, they're based on old, outdated ideas. A lot of them are based on racism. They were put into place to target specific groups because they couldn't target them for their race or their political identity. And for the most part, the majority of Americans want marijuana legalized in some way, whether it's just medical or full legalization. I say get the federal government out of that. Let the states decide, because it's a two-sided thing. If a state legalizes it, but it's still illegal on the federal level, there's still a lot of issues that go along with it. It still creates issues with the cartels in Mexico. If we just get rid of all the drug laws that are out there, it would
if I
solve
understand
a lot
what
of problems.
you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're saying start with cannabis.
Start with cannabis. That's
with
easy.
that. That's the easy one, and then from there move on. Did I hear you right?
Yes, because I think once it becomes fully legal, and then all the people that aren't sure about it see that it didn't cause all the problems they thought. Right. We're all of a sudden saving a lot of money. There's not a bunch of people in jail. I think they're going to see benefit, and then we could start talking about some of these other drugs, and then maybe eventually all of them.
Sure. So I see what you did, though. You yet again, I get in your head, that's a big deal to you, because every time I talk about something else, it all of a sudden comes back to, and we can save money. We can see, I get it. That's a big deal. I see why you made it number one. That makes sense. All right. So that's good. So now we've got those. Let's move on, if we could, to bringing the troops home. How does that work? Again, we've got, 50, 60, 70 years of Americans, the policemen of the world, right? America's the policeman of the world. It's institutional. It's cultural. It's bringing democracy to the world, right? I mean, you're going to get that pushback for sure.
Yes, it is one of those things that take a lot. I think if people really spend any amount of time looking at it, they'll see that pretty much everything the United States has gotten involved in the past 50, 60 years, it's just led to more problems. We've lost 4 more lives in the Middle East since 9/11 that were lost on 9/11, and countless of trillions of dollars in money trying to do. And what have we accomplished? It's worse over there now than it was.
Right.
So it comes down to the Constitution. We're not the police of the world at all. We should still, we want to maintain alliances and reach out and do trade with countries.
Sure.
I'm not saying we should become a hermit country that shuts ourselves off to everyone, but it's not our responsibility to handle everybody's conflict.
Now, the worry, though, is, right, and I'm playing devil's advocate here on purpose, right, just so the audience knows. I'm playing devil's advocate on purpose because you do have a lot of Americans who honestly believe that if we withdraw in any way, shape, or form, that the terrorists win, they come to us, right? We're fighting them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. How do we get past that mindset, right? I know you said in the Constitution, there are a lot of Americans, sadly. Now, I'm a veteran, right? I took an oath, and the oath I took was to defend and protect the Constitution, not every single individual American. And sadly, most executives have forgotten that. And they see the number one goal, the number one job. Trump said it, Obama said it, Bush said it. This is across all of them. My governor says it. All executives say it now. My number one goal is to protect the people of. That's not even in your oath. Your oath is the Constitution. But a lot of people believe it. So I guess I'm giving you a nudge to say, How do we get past people who say, to hell with the Constitution, save my life. You're my daddy. Be the daddy state.
Well, if we bring the troops home, it doesn't make the military just disappear. We will still
Very
have
nice.
a defensive force
Mm-hmm.
instead of being spread out across the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our military members that have been to countless wars. They're fatigued.
Yes.
If they were here, they would be able to defend us here.
Yes.
Them being over there, if somebody wants to get here, they'll come here and do damage. And we've been doing a good job at stopping them. So we can continue doing that, and we'll be better prepared here if something were to ever happen. If some country would ever attempt to attack us or declare war, we would be able to respond to that then.
And then it's funny you say that, because when me being in New York City, I'm in the belly of the beast, right? So what works in New York City isn't actually, a bunch of, troops in New York City. There are troops in New York City, but that isn't what works here. What actually works is a vigilant population. If any of you who don't live in New York City have actually, gone visited New York City, what you'll see everywhere is signs that say, if you see something, say something. It's a huge thing in New York City. It's on our subways, on our buses, on the walls, it's everywhere. And guess what? It actually works. Literally, a vigilant population goes, that guy shouldn't be there. That woman is off. Let me call the cops and see what's going on, right? And when we do that, we do it. The cops come by. Is there a bomb there? No. Have a nice day. There is. We get them. How do we know that? We literally stopped the Times Square bomber, because that's what happened. So we're actually safer when we have a vigilant population versus having troops on the ground.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to things like the military or just any government program, when people have this idea that the government's going to take care of it 100%, that they may bring their guard down and they're like, well, they'll take care of it. But if they know, well, they're there, but I need to take care of myself a little more, they'd be more willing to go. That doesn't look right.
Absolutely.
That needs help. I'm going to help them because they need help.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that will pass someone that needs help, and they go, oh, well, the government's got it. And then they don't help.
It's funny. There was it's Queens, the Queens story from years ago, when a woman was actually brutally assaulted, right, over the course of an hour. And everyone around just sat around because they all assumed somebody else would call 911, and no one did. And the woman was literally, she was literally assaulted and beaten in public because everyone thought someone else was going to call 911. So I think you're totally right. It is an issue. And I'm glad you're even thinking that way. That's great. So let me go on, if I could, then, to corporate welfare. This is something very few politicians talk about, right? It isn't sexy, right?
No,
it's not sexy. But it's important.
Yeah, it's important because there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. A lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh, that's capitalism. It's not. Businesses shouldn't get a handout when times get rough. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we have to save, just like I said, the government needs to be like a household. So do businesses. Mm-hmm. They make billions of dollars. There's no reason why they can't put money aside for when times get rough, like with the way it has with COVID. Mm-hmm. So out of the $2.2 trillion bill, a majority of that went to big businesses and corporations.
Absolutely.
And we didn't learn a lesson from 2008 either, because we did the same thing then.
Yeah.
So big corporations don't need my money. They don't need your money. They should be able to. That's what a true free market is. And if they fail, well, if they fail, they didn't do a good job, they weren't needed, and somebody will probably replace them if there's the demand anyways. Mm-hmm. So there should never be any kind of tax, any handouts or anything like that go to big companies.
I like it. There are three people are bringing up the idea of immigration and open borders. The Libertarian Party platform is open borders. The worry, of course, is, and I'll bring this up, Kane says Libertarian Party wants open borders, right? And Naomi's worried about the Democratic Party also wants open borders. How many terrorists do you think would come to the U.S. With borders? So you don't have to answer either of those questions specifically, but tell me what's your view on immigration so that you can cover all of those issues.
I mean, I agree with the libertarian platform. At a minimum, we need to make the process for people that want to come here way easier. It makes it impossible. And this thing with kids and people being locked up on the southern border, that's ridiculous. And if somebody wanted to get here, like I said, they can. What's stopping them from going to Canada and crossing over anywhere along the American and Canada border? So
yeah, the terrorist issue that I hear all the time bothers me because the people who did 9/11, they didn't cross the border illegally. They just flew here and overstayed their visa.
Right.
They didn't sneak across Mexico, or none of the actual terrorists who've done anything bad in our country. None of them snuck across the border. They came here illegally, overstayed their visa, and then did horrible stuff. The border policy is actually relevant in that regard.
Yeah, and that's how most illegal, what people call illegal immigrants, how they get here. They come here on a visa and they overstay it and they just don't leave. Yes. So the idea that open borders is causing a lot of immigrants would be here, no, because they can already come. I say there's also a lot of constitutional issues that go along with a strict immigration policy, like the 100 miles of between the border all the way into the United States. You could be stopped at any point along that and questioned about who you are and where you're from and where you're going.
I know. I believe it or not, New York's a border state with Canada. Most people don't know that, but we are. New York is a border state with Canada. And if you go in North Country, yes, they will literally just pull you over, and you can't do it. It's like you don't have rights because you said it's 100 miles. I thought it was like 50, but I guess it's 100. Whatever.
I'm pretty sure it's 100. So
then 100 it is, but it should be 0.
Right.
So any amount is too much. But say it's 100 miles. I know because I campaigned up there. They can just pull you over, do whatever they want because it's close to the border. So all of a sudden, because you're close to the border, you don't have rights anymore. It is an absolutely it's a problem. I completely agree. So speaking of that, and let me go to the other big thing that's really been affecting us this year, COVID. Do you have an opinion on the response? What's been happening? How it's been working? It's affecting the entire country.
The COVID thing has been an interesting event because we've had plagues and viruses and diseases are nothing new. They were around long before the United States were. Mm-hmm. And our founding fathers, when they wrote the Constitution, they didn't write all of it and say, except for when there's a virus.
Right, yes, sure.
But even if you take the whole constitutional part out of it, a lot of the ways the governors and mayors and different governing bodies have been handling this is through authoritarian means.
Yes.
They're basically saying you can't go where you want, when you want, you need to wear a mask. And their enforcement of it varies. Some places they'll write you a large fine. Mm-hmm. Some places it's more of a suggestion. Okay. Here in Kansas, actually, Governor Kelly came out yesterday and announced that starting Friday, statewide, if you're out in public, you have to wear a mask.
Yep.
And then they also added 2 states to the travel restrictions on if you go to those states, when you come back, you have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks.
I know. New York is doing the same thing. I know. Boo.
And a lot of these issues, if from the very beginning, the government would have done things like loosened the testing restrictions up.
Yep.
There was a lot of things they could have, if they just let the medical field do their thing.
Yep.
We probably already would have been past this.
Or at least flatten the curve for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at least flatten the curve.
Yeah, but maybe even past it. I agree. My whole concern was if you just would have, my view, and maybe you disagree with me, Jason, but I know some libertarians, they're very hardcore on ending every aspect of the federal government. I'm not. That's not where I am. I don't mind if the government is a central repository for information, or basically equivalent of the 911 call, the dispatcher. I don't mind if it's a central piece for that, because many Americans are very accustomed to that. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel good. They like having a government like in the middle. It makes them feel good. So I don't actually mind if the government says, here's the information that you guys can have. In fact, if you have more information, give it to us and we'll post it. We'll make the official information, right? We'll show you all the goodies that you might need. And then the people now can look at that and go, oh, I'm a restaurant, so I should follow the restaurant guidelines. Or, I'm a retail, furniture store, I should follow those guidelines, or whatever the case may be. And then we begin to follow the guidelines voluntarily because we actually trust the information.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say with that, if they would have done more of that voluntary route, they could have even given out little special stickers that they hang in their door that says, hey, we're following what the government says to do. Yes. And they will get a lot of business that they would not normally have gotten.
Absolutely. So yes.
It would have just worked out way better if the government used, because they have a lot of tools that they have access to because of the amount of money they take from us. So
yes, and also there's a prestige that the average American still has, right? The average American hears CDC and still thinks, oh, okay, there's value there, right? Some people don't think that. But the average American absolutely does think that, right? If you just become a repository, they believe it. So I think I'm not against that necessarily. But there's something else which I'm sure you already get, which is when you begin to force a mandate, people rebel.
They do. I mean, I think it's just human nature.
Yes.
I mean, even from when we're children, you have a parent that's overbearing. They'll find ways to go get those cigarettes or sneak out and be with their boyfriend or girlfriend.
Absolutely. So, yes.
There's a fine line where if the government's going to have these programs, that they can be helpful without being authoritarian about it.
Yes. Right, yeah. Matt brings up a point that central government's not good at relaying information, price in those being a big one. I happen to agree with Matt. My worry is we just can't end it right now, right? American people still love their government. You can see it. In my state, New York, my governor has been a tyrant, and he's still popular. And he's a tyrant.
Yeah.
Still popular.
As far as what the government, I feel like a lot of people think that if I had my way, I had a magic wand, I would just make a lot of these programs and different departments that the government has just disappear. That's not true. A lot of them could be made voluntary.
Sure.
They could still exist, and the people that want to use them, that want to support them, they'll support them. The people that don't, they'll take their money elsewhere, and it will create competition. The government Inc., or whatever you want to call it, right, would get better.
Yes, I think the post office is the perfect example of that, right? There's FedEx. There's exactly what you're saying, Jason. What you're saying is post office and FedEx and UPS, and people pick the ones that you want. And there are certain things the government does well, right? The government actually does a couple things well compared to the others. It's a really good bulk mailer, right? If you want bulk mailing, it's actually, if you're a business owner, it's actually better to go to the United States Post Office than it is UPS or FedEx. They're actually better at it, which sounds crazy, but what wound up happening is each one began to specialize a bit, right? And if you want to take your package to Barrow, Alaska, FedEx is not going there. Neither is UPS. The government, it's already got a plane that goes there every week, right? So so you wind up specializing and actually becoming better. I love what you're saying. So
go ahead. As far as the post office goes, it is in a multi-trillion dollar, is it trillion or billion dollar deficit every year.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And the fact that they basically outlawed services like FedEx and UPS from delivering letters, it kind of, who knows what UPS and FedEx could be able to do with that service if they were allowed to start doing it.
That's true. Maybe the issue with the post office, I'm pretty sure it's actually in the Constitution.
Oh, it is. It would take an amendment.
So you kind of that's kind of stuck on that one, but still a good example, right? That you do have specialties, right? So it could work. The world doesn't end when you provide competition to the government. It doesn't end. Absolutely. So let me ask you, right? I talked about COVID and about, the fear that's out there. how can you make impact? How can you make impact in the next 5 months, 4 months to make some real impact so that people know who you are and you get out there and you get that vote out?
The way I make impact is just keep at it every day, spread the libertarian message, help out other candidates that are running in my state. Even I'm right on the Missouri border. I will gladly go help them out because there's a lot of people from Kansas going to Missouri to do things, and Missouri that go into Kansas to do things. So, and then also supporting up ballot as well. If Joe gets into office, she's going to be able to help me. If she's
absolutely
going up in the polls and people find out about her, they go, well, wait, who's the senator running?
Yep.
So that's how you can make impact. And even if, say, none of us win this time, obviously I'm going off the premise that I will. I think I will.
But hold on, before you go there, to help you win, guys, if you want to help this man, particularly if you're in Kansas, head on down to jasonbuckley2020.com. It's going across the bottom of the screen. Give him some help if you're in Kansas. I know I bug you guys every time. If you've already picked a horse, I got it. But if you haven't picked a horse yet, this is a horse you can pick too. Particularly if you are living in Kansas, Missouri, maybe on the border somewhere, head on over there. If you can give some money, give. If you can't give, no worries. He also needs help. He needs people for social media. He needs people to come and wave door signs. He needs people to wave signs, do door knocking, phone banking. He needs he needs people and he needs resources. If you can help out, jasonbuckley2020.com. Go over there, click, donate if you can. If not, sign up to volunteer. Now, you were saying, if you don't win.
If we don't win, based upon the last few elections, the track is moving up. I think, I believe we're going to break 7 to 10%.
Nice.
Minimum, because of the state of things. So it's just, we're building the movement. So even if it's not this time, if 2020 is just not there, maybe it'll be 2022 or 2024.
Sure.
Eventually, we will be there, if not in 2020.
I love it. Justin asked a question. How do you feel about ending all foreign aid?
I believe if you are in debt, and this is, again, treat it like a household. If you are in debt, you shouldn't be giving money out to your friends. Take care of your household first. If, say, we get down to we're in the green, or
that'd be amazing.
We don't have a deficit. We don't have any debt. And then we have maybe some alliance, some countries where we like to work with, and they're in a tough spot. Maybe we can come together and give them some aid. Just like I would. If I was in a good position and my neighbor, like I knew that they were having a hard time, or my family members or a friend, I would absolutely help them out in any way I can. Even if it's not financially, it could be like if someone needed a cup of milk, here you go.
I got you. Okay. So let me ask you now, if you don't win, do you have a way of measuring what is kind of like a secondary win for you? Like if this happens or if that happens, then you know what? Even though you didn't get the actual seat, it's still a win for you. Have you decided what that is?
If I can grow, if the votes this year for my seat only, for the seat that I'm seeking, is higher than it was the last election for Libertarians, that is a win ultimately, because it means we're still on the right path.
Got it. So you're saying if you've got growth, that's a win.
Yes.
Got it. I love that idea. It's amazing. Good. Excellent. So let me ask you, Jason, anything else you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
I'm just looking for any support, like you brought up. That will, I mean, anything someone can offer and support, it goes a long way. I'm pretty much a one-man show right now, doing it all on my own. I'm insanely busy. So that's the biggest thing I could, if somebody wants to reach out and just have a chat, learn more about me, learn more about libertarianism,
or volunteer for your campaign to help you out. Maybe do some of your social media, maybe do some of your booking on shows like this, maybe do a little bit of communications director, something like that, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Any amount will help, more than you will ever know.
Guys, if you're out there and you're not in a position where you can write a check or put a credit card into play, no worries. Do you have some time where you could be a social media director? Do you have some time you could be a comms director? Do you have some time where you can help, bug people like me to get him on the show, that kind of stuff? He needs all of that. Absolutely. And there you go, jasonbuckley2020.com. Jason, I want to say thank you for coming aboard, man. I appreciate you giving us the time.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be able to speak to you in person. Well, kind of in person.
In person-ish. I like it. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.